This is for the stay-at-home mom who feels chronically overwhelmed. Maybe you find yourself wondering if this is just the way moms feel. But after recently moving, getting sick, and then getting behind on work, I found myself feeling overwhelmed, overstimulated, and tired. This doesn't have to be the way it is. There are things that you can do to help limit the overload and find a calmer, slower, and simpler way to live. Welcome to the Slowish Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis. I'm a mama to 2 little girls and a parenting coach. I help moms who are burned out, tired, and stressed feel happy and confident so they can enjoy a little more ease in their daily life. If you want to unlearn parenting and awaken your innate design, then you're in the right place. Alrighty, let's get into today's episode. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to another episode. If you are watching on YouTube, I have changed my space. So welcome to my new office, my new recording space. I think I'm going to be changing it around quite a bit. Not really 100% thrilled with the way I've set things up, but I wanted to get some content out for you guys because if you are on YouTube and you follow me there, I did a community post a couple weeks ago sharing that I was feeling really overwhelmed, and I actually took a week off from podcasting, and I feel so much better. I was cringing while I was creating the post because I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling overstimulated, and I actually decided I think this is a good time to talk about being overstimulated, being overwhelmed, this feeling that can just overtake us. And often I think we expect ourselves to run at 100% capacity when we just cannot. It's not possible. And so this week really had me thinking about what are the things that I'm doing on a daily basis that are building up and leading to this. Because I've shared very openly here, I don't have consistent care for my children. So I record these videos when my husband can take the kids on a day off. And typically I do get to do that once a week. He'll take the kids so I can do my coaching calls and be here on YouTube. But aside from that, I get occasionally my mother-in-law to watch the kiddos, but I'm not getting a lot of time for me to reset myself. And this is something I'm really challenging myself to in this season. So when you're listening to this episode, I don't want you to think I've even mastered all these things. These episodes are often things that I'm working through in real time that I'm sharing with you because I have a lot of thoughts about it. So a lot of what you're following is my journey, and I'm a parent coach, but I'm not perfect. I'm still figuring it out because I'm still about 2 years into this journey of becoming rage-free. And that doesn't mean that I don't ever experience rage, feel rage, or even sometimes actually rage. It doesn't happen often anymore, but it does happen from time to time. And I think being overwhelmed and overstimulated is a huge factor to that in my story. So I have my notes over here, so I'm going to keep kind of glancing, but I have 8 things that I believe are making us as stay-at-home moms a little bit more overwhelmed than we should be. So the first thing that I noticed in my week off was there was too much noise. So my kids had gotten sick and we had moved all on the same day. My kids literally were coming down with a fever the day we have the moving people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I found myself in the days after this feeling so overstimulated and overwhelmed because the TV was constantly on. If you've been following along on my channel, I recently just did a video about how we eliminated screens. We had been, I think it was almost 40 days without screens. We had done like an occasional, I let my kids watch like an occasional show during the week of like one day, literally one day a week. So they had maybe watched like 5 shows like throughout that time. So they were very detoxed from having screens. And then all of a sudden they are so sick, fevers. Honestly, they didn't even really want to watch movies. They didn't want to do anything. And so I just was allowing them to do whatever they wanted. If they wanted to watch 2 movies right in a row and not take, honestly, they were watching movies, I think almost all day for like 5 days. And then things started to get better. I weaned them off, and then they started getting sick for a second time, and we had to go right back into screens. It was the whole fever thing all over again. I mean, the whole process, it was terrible. It was just terrible. And I found myself at the end of the 3-week time frame that this was happening, my ears literally were ringing. I would go to bed and my ears were ringing. And I'm currently still reading. I've already read it once and I went back and read it a second time. The book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And this book has me thinking so much about noise. It has me thinking about how much is going on in our physical world, especially when we have little kids, right? If we have a TV going, if we have music playing, if they have toys that sing at them, if they are singing, if they are being loud, if we have a dog that's clickety clacketing on the floor, we have maybe a podcast in our ear, we have the water running, we have food sizzling on the stove, like noise is constant. And so I found myself really trying to think, how can I eliminate the noise? And so obviously the first thing to go was the TV, which was a given that was going to happen. So I cut back again on the screens. We've been doing no screens for 3-4 days. And I want you to know, at the time of recording this, we're doing the process over again after being sick, and it is hard. It is still hard. It's not as hard as the first time, but it's still hard. And so that noise, though, not hearing a constant screen, has given me so much more availability, and I feel a lot less overwhelmed already with that. But then I'm thinking of things like, how can I eliminate the noise of just the things of the home that make noise, the dishwasher, the washer, like all of these things are adding to my noise level. And as soon as I started noticing all the ways that I was experiencing noise, I was like, okay, I need to figure out a way to make all of this less. And so one very little thing that I started doing was, in the evening, I'm only doing 1 load of laundry right now a day because the noise is too much. It's too loud. And so I've been doing a load at night when I'm going to be hopping into the shower. So I'm not hearing the dush, 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 and then the dryer, if you know what I'm talking about, you're like, oh yes, that noise. But it's something that I feel like has been in the background, but because I'm overstimulated, it is right at the forefront of my mind. And so until I can have more capacity, obviously I can't sustain just doing 1 load of laundry every single day for the rest of our lives. Like, we have too much laundry for that. But for right now in this season, I have to be okay with that. And so this was something I was journaling through. How can I have less noise? How can I have pockets and times of less noise? Maybe it's not a full day. This morning I took my kids on a walk, and just listening to the birds. Like, we were all trying to listen for the birds. And this was literally healing my ears. And I'm not even exaggerating. It was just healing me. And so anyway, I hope that this little tidbit helps of just figuring out how to lessen the noise in your home. Okay. The second thing that I found was causing me so much overwhelm was too many toys. So as I mentioned, we have just moved. And so the day we moved, everybody was sick. So I just threw all of the toys into the closet. We typically do I'm going to say a very strict toy rotation. We only have 3 to 5 things that the kids can play with at all times. Very open-ended things, because it overstimulates them. And then it overstimulates me. Well, I haven't gotten to the toys yet. I haven't organized them. I haven't figured out where they're going to go. Our house is a little smaller. Which ones am I going to keep? Which ones am I going to get rid of? Am I just going to keep them all out in the garage? Like, these were all things I just wasn't sure of. So I just stuck them all in the closet. And the kids just kept taking out like almost every single tote every single day. And every night it was just this. It was exhausting to pick everything up. They didn't want to pick it up. I didn't want to pick it up. We were frustrated with each other. And I realized that I need to eliminate this today. Like, this cannot go on another day. So I literally packed everything up. I gave them an option of 3 things that they could keep out, and they did. They happily picked it out. And now at night, I'm not feeling like, oh my gosh, there's magnet tiles, there's Tony's, there's dress up stuff, there's books, there's like horses, there's Barbie dolls, there's all these things to pick up. It's like, I can give my kids a direction, which I've mentioned, in previous episodes. Giving my kids a direction, giving them something that they can do to help pick up has been super helpful. But if they're feeling overwhelmed, they're definitely not going to pick up, and it's going to be really hard for me to enforce it because I'm just like, I want to get through this. I want to get done. So I would really pay attention to how many toys you have. If you have a home that allows for you to have just the bedroom be the toy space, this has been critical in helping us as a family to not feel overwhelmed. So our living room, we have a strict, we don't keep toys in there. They can play with toys in there. They can bring toys from their bedroom, but at the end of the night, they all go back into their room. And so I don't have to look at toys all day long. I don't have to look at toys when I'm sitting there at night, just wanting to relax and just be. Another rule I have is no toys in my room. That's actually just like a no toys period, like no toys go in my room, because that is my calm space. That's where I go to calm myself down when I need to use my rage calming tools, which if you haven't downloaded them yet, you can just comment rage below and I'll send them to you. But this is where I need that space to regulate myself. So notice the toys, notice how many. If you kind of want a guide on how to declutter the toys, what toys should you keep? I love the book Simplicity Parenting. Dr. Kim John talks a lot about this. This is kind of the blueprint I used at the beginning, and I'm definitely not going back. After moving, I'm like, nope, I see why I did what I did, and I'm absolutely going to continue doing it. So yeah, take a look at that, see how that feels for your family. Okay, the next thing, number 3. So something that overwhelms me is when I get into this homemaking, need to make everything from scratch time period. I find that I feel very pressured to make everything from scratch for a health standpoint. And by no means am I sitting here saying that we should always feed our kids processed foods and all these things. Like, of course, we want to give them good, nutritious, healthy foods. That's very important to me. Very, very important. But have I gotten to this point where I can do that? Do I have capacity to do that? I did a video about why I believe homemaking can be toxic. And this was one of the things in there, is that we pressure ourselves to do all the things, to make all the food from scratch because it looks like everybody else is doing it and it looks like they're doing it well. But the truth is they might just be in a different season than you. I think remembering that a lot of these moms that we're watching here on YouTube, they have several kids. I look at like the Farmhouse on Boone. I started watching her before I had kids. I love her. I love her stuff, but she is way beyond where I'm at. She has teenagers. I have little kids. She has help. If she wants to make, I love her sourdough cinnamon rolls. Oh my gosh, they're so good. If you've tried them, you've got to try them. They're so good. But I can't always do that in this season that I'm in. I just can't. I'd love to make that a Sunday morning tradition, but I can't right now. My kids are too little for that. That doesn't mean I never can. I just need to be realistic. And so I think really looking at the home, looking at food in specific, food for me takes up a lot of mental energy. How can I still feed my kids things that are really healthy, but how can I do that in a way that isn't so overwhelming and like I have to do so much? And yeah, that's been really cool for me to kind of figure out different snack ideas, different ways to make food that don't take as much energy on my part. There does have to be a little give, right? I can't expect myself to never make anything either, right? Like I have to make some food, but I think the expectation of making every snack from scratch, all the food from scratch, everything, I just think is unrealistic in the season that I'm in, and it's just adding to my overwhelm. So this might be something to look into as well. Okay, the next thing is going to be staying stuck in your house. This, oh man, I want to give this advice to myself right now. This is advice for me. I can get stuck in my own home doing my own thing because it feels too overwhelming to go out and do anything. It feels like I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, well, almost 3 and 5, but it can be a lot of work at times. The 3-year-old, almost 3-year-old, she can do a lot of things and she's pretty good about listening, but there was a large chunk of time where she would just run. And so it was very stressful to take her out. And I felt like it was going to be more overwhelming to take her out. But I sometimes need to get out of not literal 4 walls, but the 4 walls of my house, right? I got to get out of this area to get myself unstuck. And so that might just mean loading the kids up in the car and taking a drive. Like that was something I was doing when the kids were sick, because I needed to get out of the walls and the thought and the headspace that I was in right here. One of the clients I'm coaching right now, her go-to is taking her kids to a park. Like it could be anywhere. It could be 15 minutes away. It could be an hour away, whatever kind of day she's feeling. She goes, but this always breaks up my day. It always makes me feel better. And I find myself feeling the same exact way, not necessarily always going to a park. And it doesn't always have to be something for the kids, but what can I do that would help my overwhelm and give us like some new, fresh perspective on things. Sometimes even just going for a walk. If you live in an area where you can just walk out of your house and go for a walk, do it. Like it feels so good to get out of your own head. And it also kind of opens your eyes that there are other things going on in the world beside your own problems, which I'm like, I can get so stuck in my own world, my own problems, and nothing else matters. Nothing else is going on. And it's all of a sudden you look around, you're like, oh yeah, there are other things going on in this world beside myself. And it's very humbling. So try getting out of your house. I think that can be helpful in reducing the overwhelm, but be careful in what you choose. Like for me, going to Target with the kids is stressful. I'm not going to do that, but bringing them to a park usually is something that isn't too stressful. Okay. The next thing is going to be ignoring your signs to regulate yourself. So this goes a lot along the lines of like the anxiety, feeling rage, feeling anger, frustration. We have turned those things off because they're considered bad, right? They're considered the things that are not desirable in a mother. I hear so many of the moms that I coach, they talk about, I didn't see my mom get angry. I didn't see my mom feel frustrated. Like she was always just like even keel, like I never saw any emotion with her. And what's interesting is when we go back and we start looking at not only your childhood, but we start looking at mom, who she is now, how she interacts with people, kind of this martyr mentality that so many of our moms had. It's caused a lot of the feelings that we're feeling. And so what we did is, because we thought that that was the ideal mother, to never show any emotion, we turn off. And so we're turning off the signs and signals, and it's honestly just storing in the body and making it worse. I was just listening to a podcast episode that Irene Lyon did about safety and finding safety in the body. And when I was listening to her, I was thinking about how we think that it's safe to turn these things off, but instead of it being safe, it's just storing in the body and it's bubbling up. And I think that for me, a lot of the overwhelm is this. It's me stuffing down, keeping it in, because I feel like if I were to let it go, it would ruin everything. It would ruin my kid's day. Maybe it would ruin my kid's relationship if I raged, I yelled, what would that actually look like? What would actually happen there? And so what I'm finding right now in the season that I'm in, because I've kind of fallen back into definitely feelings of rage. I'm going to like celebrate a moment and say like, I actually didn't rage, even though I was really stressed. Like typically when we're really stressed, we're going to resort back to what our body knows best, which for me was rage. So yay for me. Yay for me not to rage and to feel it and to regulate it. But I think when we turn off these signals, which are unconscious, it's not like it's a conscious decision always. Sometimes it is, but always to say, no, don't feel that. No, don't do that. But can we learn a healthier way to let go of the rage and the anger? Is there a way that we can do that? And what I've learned is, yes, there is. And that's what I teach with my 14 rage calming tools. Now, at the time that this releases, I believe there's 1 week until my rage-free mama group container comes out. I'm not sure if it's going to be full by time this airs, but if you do want to be notified about the next time that it opens, I will go ahead and leave a link below, and then you can get on the email list for that. But in this course, I'm going to be teaching moms how to learn your signs, learn your triggers, reconnect back to the body, and then regulate yourself. Regulate your emotions and your feelings with calming tools, with a mindset shift. Like these are all parts of learning how to control your emotions and your rage and stop being so reactive. And I think that if we ignore this, I think this is one of the most toxic things we can do, not only for ourselves, but for our children. It's not teaching them anything, and it surely is not helping how we respond to them. So look into how your body is responding. Are you responding appropriately? Are you expressing what's going on in your inner world? Are you using nonviolent communications, feelings, and needs to give your kids kind of this blueprint of what they can do, and what your expectation is and what you're needing from them, what you're feeling? Because whether or not you say it, they are energetic little beings and they understand what you're going through. They can feel it. It's like osmosis. It's there for them. And so whether you say it or not, they can feel it, but being able to identify it's not them as the child. It's you. It's mama's having a hard day. Mama's going through something. It totally changes the dynamic, and it also changes their behavior, which to me was crazy when I started doing this. It was amazing to see my kids not reacting in a moment when they would normally react, because they felt it was personal. They felt it was towards them. And the minute I said, Mama's having a really hard day. Mom and Dad got in an argument this morning, and I'm just feeling really sad. I'm needing some space to get my head right. I'm needing to go take a walk to burn off some energy. Letting them know what I'm going to do teaches them some tools that they can use. And again, this is where your calming tools can come in. Maybe you need to use a calming tool, and this is teaching your child how to handle and deal with the anger. Okay, the next thing that I think is super toxic for stay-at-home moms is skipping meals. Oh, I've mentioned this in a few episodes, and I always have moms saying, yeah, absolutely, I get that. And that's me, but I didn't think about it. And it seems so simple and so silly and little, but when our body isn't feeling safety, and we're in that kind of starvation mode, we obviously are going to be in a fight, flight, survival mode. And so we are going to respond in that way too. So for me, it's really important that I'm not only eating breakfast, eating within 30 minutes of waking up, eating a snack, eating definitely lunch. I'm a lunch skipper. I love to skip lunch because it feels unnecessary. I'll just eat a bunch of snacks, but then I'm short and frustrated with my kids at 4 or 5 o'clock, and that is not fair to them. So really noticing, evaluating, am I eating enough? And eating your kids' leftover chicken nuggets, that's not it. You want something nourishing. If you're interested in starting to find safety within your body, within food, I love Corey Malloy. I love her Freely Rooted. I took that course back in 2021, I believe. Might have either 2020 or 2021. So it's been quite a while, and it has just drastically changed my life. It has helped me through my anxiety. It's helped me when I've had feelings of rage. This has just been a huge piece of the puzzle. So yeah, look at your meals. Are you eating enough? But I think this doesn't need much more explanation. So, all right, number 7, scrolling. You knew this was coming. You knew that I was going to talk about scrolling, but I want to be very specific here with scrolling. So I also struggle with scrolling. You're going to be like, you struggle with scrolling? You love slow living. You love minimalism. You love a simple life. Like what? Yes, I struggle with scrolling. I actually don't have Instagram. I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. I got rid of most social media, but I've kept Pinterest. And I can do a whole video where I explain that process and what that's looked like. But I find myself in very stressed out seasons, stressful seasons, scrolling. And I have gotten into this bad habit in the last, 6 months, where I would wake up and I'd scroll. And my excuse is that I still co-sleep kind of with my kids. They come in between the hours of 2 and 5 in the morning, and not both of them. It's really just my youngest. My oldest, for the most part, stays in her bed. But anyway, that's besides the point. I would feel trapped. I needed to stay in the bed because she would wake up. And if she woke up early, she was miserable. So I didn't know what else to do because I was waking up at 6:30 because I'm ready to get up. I want to start my day. And what I found is I was using not being able to get up as the excuse to scroll. Well, it just started me off in a bad mood. Like it was like I let everybody else's world into mine before my day had even started. And so while I was first reading the Ruthless Elimination book, I really felt convicted to stop the morning scrolling. So what I've done is I've taken my Kindle and I've put it in my room. And what's funny is I don't love reading in the morning. I will occasionally pick it up in the morning and read if it's been a little bit and I'm feeling like, okay, I want to get up, but I'm feeling trapped. But I've just been like resting, just laying there, slowly waking up. And it's been amazing. Like it's been putting me in a really good headspace. And yeah, so that morning scroll time is like something that I think more moms need to look at because it's kind of starting your day with overwhelm. But I want to also challenge you. Look at the end of your day. I found myself once again, my husband was putting the kids to bed around 8 o'clock. I'm waiting for the shower to heat up. And what am I doing? I'm scrolling and I'm putting more people's lives and information into my own head. And I'm taking on their world. I don't need to take on their world. I need to recenter myself. And so for me, I still wanted something to do because I felt like this was my time, right? And I want to eventually get to this point, but I wanted some kind of noise, I guess. And so I found myself putting on a podcast, putting on just some music that I really enjoy, and then getting into the shower and just kind of making it a really relaxed evening, and then closing the evening with some reading. Now, granted, my kids are ages 3 and 5, so I don't have like a baby that I'm nursing at night or whatever, but when I think about that season, because hopefully in the next couple of years, we will have another one. That's something that I dream of, and I hope that we do get to have more kids. But when that season does come, I do want to still practice something similar where it's kind of a wind down at night. And I'll explain my next one, which kind of goes hand in hand with this. But I want to start winding down my evening so I can have full, complete rest, so I can wake up the next day and feel revitalized. I feel refreshed. I feel like able to conquer the day. And so I think that even if it's just for like a short period of time, maybe you don't do it all the time, but maybe like when you're really feeling overwhelmed, you just say like for the next 3 days, I'm not doing phone in the morning or at night. Like I'm just going to give myself like that peace and that quiet, that stillness that my body is so craving and needing. Because I think for me, when I get into a really overwhelmed state, 2 things can happen. One, I can just overwhelm myself more by trying to do the scrolling and too much noise and all of that. Or I go the opposite. Like, I don't want to hear anything. I don't even want to look at my phone. I don't want, so you've got like 2 drastically different ways that I think we can handle these situations. And so, yeah, try that, see how that works. I'm curious, like if you guys struggle with scrolling too. If you do, comment below and just kind of share where you're at with your journey and why either you feel like it's an okay thing to do or why you want to stop it. Okay. The very last thing is going to be not getting enough natural light. So I've shared this in a few episodes where I have found lighting to become crucial in my journey with anger and rage and frustration, and even within regulating my own kids. I love the Village Sessions, I believe it's called. It's a podcast with Corey Molly, I can't remember her last name. It's like Steins, I think. And then Michelle Chatham. And they talk so much about, it's a very crunchy podcast, but something that I learned that I can't unhear now is how important light is. I've always been super into light. I first got really into it when I learned about hygge and how that the Danish culture really prioritizes light and the different kinds of lighting. They do warm lighting. It's very cozy. It's lamps. It's not overhead lighting. They also know when to have fluorescent overhead lighting. Like if you're working on your laptop, that would be a time that you would. But when you're at home, having friends over and maybe you're eating dinner, it's like, do you have a big overhead light on or do you have a candle? And so I shared this a couple years ago where my kids, like they love when we put on a candle at night. It's like cozy. It's like a dinner party, but it's every single night and they love it. They ask for it. And so since moving, I started doing that again. I started bringing back, okay, these were the things that helped our family to get back on track. And so I'm trying to do more things like natural lighting throughout the day. No lights. Like, we don't need lights on in the house, especially overhead lights, when there's natural lighting. Trying to get outside in at least 20 minutes of sunlight a day if I can. Right now we're kind of entering into rain season. Today we happen to have a really nice sunny day, and it's a little cloudy, but I mean, it's been amazing to have a few days of sunshine, right? So I'm going to soak that up. We took the kids for a walk this morning, get them that vitamin D, which is so helpful in our mood. I find myself to feel infinitely better when I've gotten out and gotten some sunshine. So maybe it's getting outside, taking a walk. Maybe it's just opening your blinds so you can have beautiful natural sunlight. Maybe it's changing your light bulbs from those fluorescent-y LED lights to a warmer light. Maybe it's doing more lamps. For me, and in our kitchen, I did like all these lights under our cabinets to give it a just warmer feel at night. And then we're lighting a candle. I have no overhead lights on at night. And what that helps to do is it helps to tell my kids it's starting to become nighttime. And then we start relaxing. We start feeling more tired naturally because melatonin is kicking in, and we're really, what's the word I'm looking for? We're I want to say adjusting, but we're calibrating, I guess, ourselves to the natural circadian rhythms. And I find that also really helps. And on a side note, the other night, my husband and I, we did our first night of what I would call a complete Sabbath. And so we set our phones in a box, and we had dinner by candlelight while the kids played on the floor. It was so cute. It was like, seriously, it was dreamy. I was like, is this real life? I kept saying that to my husband. And then we got the kids to sleep, and I took a bath and it was all candlelight, like no overhead lights. I had just our little lamps on in our room. We played cards, and we were both exhausted by 10 o'clock, which is not typical. And we fell asleep together. And like, this is just not our normal everyday life because we're busy. I'm working at night trying to get YouTube done. It's a constant thing, you guys. But doing this just one night, I mean, I felt my nervous system settling down. I felt it calming down. And that's ultimately what I want to do when I'm in overwhelm, when I'm in this feeling of overstimulation. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. I hope that it encouraged you to find some ways to step back and to unravel yourself from the overwhelm and the overstimulation. I hope that you know that you are not alone in this season. There are so many mamas. I mean, clearly this channel has encouraged and has brought light to so many mamas. And so I just want to continue doing that for you. And I want you to know that I'm an imperfect human, and that's why I'm coming here and sharing this all with you, because I'm learning, and I'm learning right alongside you. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to continue seeing content like this, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, you can hit a thumbs up. But yeah, alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching, and happy parenting.